Chosen one. Heaven has noticed you. The gaze of the Almighty has rested upon your life, not by coincidence, but by calling. You have walked through long shadows where silence echoed louder than words, seasons where your prayers seemed unanswered, and dreams felt buried beneath the weight of delay. Yet, even in the quiet, heaven was moving. What looked like absence was preparation. What felt like rejection was divine redirection. There was once a man, a chosen one like you, who spent years misunderstood. He labored faithfully while others mocked his patience. He built when no one believed, and he waited when others rushed ahead. But when the winds shifted, the very ones who dismissed him came seeking his wisdom. You, too, are entering that turning point. The time of hidden labor is over. What you built in secret will soon speak for itself. The prophet wrote these words long ago in the scroll of Nahum, chapter 1, verse 5. The mountains quake before him, and the hills melt away. The earth trembles at his presence, the world and all who live in it. Do you feel that trembling in your spirit? That is not fear, it is awakening. Heaven's presence is drawing near to your life. Every shaking you have endured was not meant to destroy you. It was meant to clear the old foundations so that new glory could rise. Mountains represent obstacles, and they are bowing now. Hills, your past limitations are melting in the heat of divine favor. The world around you may tremble, but you will stand, because the same presence that shakes the earth establishes your feet. There's a story about a woman who prayed in darkness for years. She felt forgotten, unheard. Every night she whispered, "Lord, do you still see me?" What she didn't know was that God had been rearranging circumstances behind the curtain. When her moment came, it came suddenly. A door opened that she didn't even know existed. That's what's happening to you right now. The tremors in your life are not endings, they are beginnings. You have been the seed buried deep, unseen beneath the frost. But seeds are not buried to die, they are planted to rise. Every trial has been water. Every disappointment has been sunlight in disguise. You were never being overlooked. You were being cultivated. Now heaven's light is breaking through your soil. The world that once ignored your existence will soon witness your unfolding, and when they ask, "Where did this light come from?" you will know it was born in the secret place. Under the watchful eyes of God, there is power in your stillness. Chosen one, you have endured the hidden furnace of transformation. The fire that once scared you now glows within you. You are no longer who you were. Your silence has turned into strength. Your waiting into wisdom. You carry the evidence of divine endurance, like the sun emerging from behind storm clouds. Your moment of unveiling will not need announcement. It will simply be seen. The glory that rests on you will do the speaking. This is not about fame or validation. It is about destiny and assignment. The world can no longer ignore what heaven has ordained. You are walking into a season where visibility is not vanity, it is verification. Every closed door was training your discernment. Every quiet season was shaping your integrity. Now, the trembling you feel is heaven adjusting your position. The old ground cannot contain what you've become. Chosen one, lift your eyes. Breathe in the new air of this season. The world may tremble, but you will not. The shaking is proof that heaven has stepped into your story. You were not created to blend in, you were created to blaze. If this message reaches something deep inside your spirit, Pause and let it settle. When your heart feels aligned, comment the number 77 below as a sign that you are ready to rise into your calling. And before you go, like, share, and subscribe, not as a ritual, but as a declaration that you are part of the movement of light rising across the earth. Every connection here strengthens the fire heaven has kindled in you. Your light is rising, and the world cannot ignore it any longer. Chosen one, this is your confirmation. Your wilderness season has not been wasted. Every hidden day was a rehearsal for this radiant unveiling. You are stepping out of the shadows, carrying wisdom forged in fire. The world will not simply see you, they will see the hand of God moving through you. So walk boldly now. Let every breath declare purpose. Let every step echo faith. The trembling earth is your stage, and heaven's light is your spotlight. You have spent years walking through a season of divine hiding, not punishment, not delay preparation. When others ran ahead, chasing recognition, you were being taught the discipline of stillness. The silence around you was not neglect. It was heaven building your roots deep enough to hold the weight of the calling that is now drawing near. There was a time when you questioned it, when you saw others celebrated while you remained unseen. You wondered if God had forgotten your name. You whispered prayers that returned in echoes, thinking perhaps you had missed your moment. But you never missed anything. He was saving you from premature exposure. A light revealed too early burns out too fast, and God would not allow that for you. In the hidden years, heaven was training your spirit to discern his whispers amid the noise. You learned to find peace in prayer instead of applause, to measure success not by visibility but by obedience. That quiet endurance has become your crown. There is a story of a young artist, one who painted in a dim attic for nearly a decade. Every canvas he made was an offering. No one saw. Critics dismissed him. His work was too quiet, too honest, too different. But one night, as a storm raged outside, a candle fell and set fire to the attic. When the townspeople came to help, they found the walls covered with hundreds of paintings, colors alive, even in the smoke. The next morning, they called it a miracle. Yet, he had been creating that beauty all along. The world simply hadn't looked yet. That is you. You have been painting your destiny in private. Every act of kindness, every tear wiped in silence, every choice to forgive it, has all been brushstrokes on the canvas of your purpose. Now the fire of change is revealing what was hidden. According to the writings in the book of Hosea, chapter 6, verse 3, as surely as the sun rises, he will appear. He will come to us like the winter rains, like the spring rains that water the earth. This is the rhythm of your journey, divine timing, not human schedule. Just as rain cannot be rushed, neither can your becoming. The world's calendar means nothing when heaven's clock strikes now. You are being called out of obscurity in perfect alignment with divine order. Every delay you faced was a disguised protection. The connections that fell apart, the doors that stayed shut, the opportunities that never returned, they were not losses. They were filters. Heaven was ensuring that when your name rises, it rises in purity, not polluted by compromise. You were not created to chase platforms. You were chosen to carry presence. The years of being unseen were years of consecration. Heaven hides its treasures until the world is ready to receive them. You are one of those treasures. Think of a pearl forming inside an oyster, hidden, pressured, isolated. The world sees only a shell, rough and unremarkable. But inside, the layers of suffering are turning into radiance. That's what your hidden years have been, layers of revelation turning into beauty. When God opens you to the world, they won't see the struggle, they'll see the shine. Even your silence carried power. While you thought nothing was happening, heaven was rearranging everything around you. People left your life, not because you failed, but because they couldn't breathe at the altitude you were about to rise to. What you called loss was actually divine altitude adjustment. Chosen one. You were hidden so your purity would not be contaminated. You were held back so your timing would not be stolen. You were overlooked so that when you rise, it would be undeniable that only God could have done it. Now, as the winds of change gather, stay still for a moment longer. Do not rush the unfolding. The flower does not force its bloom, it simply responds to light, and that light is already touching your petals. The years of hiding are not wasted years, they are sacred ones. They made you steady, wise, unshakable. When the curtain lifts, you will walk forward, not as someone desperate to be seen, but as someone ready to serve. The hidden years have not diminished you, they have distilled you. Your time in the shadows was the divine rehearsal for the radiance that follows. You are stepping out now, not as who you were, but as who heaven always intended you to be. You have graduated from silence to significance. The world will soon realize what heaven has always known. Your waiting was never in vain. It was prophecy preparing to manifest. You have begun to notice it, haven't you? The shift, the unease in the air that whispers, something is happening. That is the sound of darkness reacting to your awakening. Your light has been stirring beneath the surface, and now it refuses to stay hidden. The forces that once overlooked you have started to tremble. The invisible realm recognizes your rising before the visible world ever will. There is a reason you've been feeling resistance lately. It is not because you are losing ground, it is because you are gaining it. Every spiritual force that once kept you small senses that your power is returning. The enemy doesn't attack what isn't threatening. He only wars against what carries potential. The more pressure you feel, the more confirmation that you are walking toward your divine place of authority. It's like a lighthouse standing alone in the storm. The waves crash, the winds scream, but the light never flickers out. You are that lighthouse. You've endured the battering of waves, opinions, betrayals, disappointments, but your light still cuts through the fog. Darkness has seen your glow and knows its time is running short. The apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, second letter, chapter 4, verse 6, for God, who said, "Let light shine out of darkness," made his light shine in our hearts to give us the knowledge of God's glory displayed in the face of Christ. Now, that light inside you is not ordinary. It is the very echo of creation. The same voice that said, "Let there be light," is speaking through your existence now. You are a carrier of divine illumination. Every room you enter shifts. Every atmosphere adjusts. Because darkness cannot coexist with what you carry. There was once a man who lived at the edge of a small village, a quiet man, unnoticed, mocked for his faith. But one night, the town's oil lamps went out during a violent storm. While everyone stumbled in confusion, His single lantern burned steadily. One by one, neighbors came to his door, drawn by the light they once dismissed. That is what happens when God's chosen ones shine. The world that mocked you will seek you when its own light fades. You have carried light through seasons that tried to extinguish it. You have prayed when prayers felt heavy, smiled when your heart broke, and believed when everything told you to give up. That defiance against despair is proof that your light is holy. It does not come from emotion, it comes from divine endurance. Now, darkness trembles because it knows your eyes are opening. You are beginning to see through the disguises, the distractions, the illusions, the lies that tried to tell you you're not enough. The truth is, you always were. You just forgot for a while. But now, remembrance is awakening within you. Picture your spirit as a torch once buried in the earth. The rain has passed, and the soil begins to crack open. A hand from heaven reaches in, lifting it high. The flame catches the wind, and suddenly, everything around you glows. That is your story unfolding. You were not buried, you were planted. You were not forgotten, you were hidden for ignition. Even now, someone is watching your life quietly, being changed by your perseverance. Your faith has become a silent sermon. You don't need to convince people, you just need to keep burning. Light speaks louder than words ever could. So, when shadows move around you, remember they move because your light exposes them. Don't retreat. Don't dim down. The world needs what only you carry. You are not fighting for victory. You are enforcing it. If your heart agrees with this truth, write these words below. Light still wins. Oak. Type it as a declaration, not just a comment, because every time you declare it, you remind both heaven and hell that the darkness has already lost. You are not trying to shine, you were born to. And when you write it, light still wins, know that you are not typing mere words, you are proclaiming alignment. You are agreeing with the eternal decree that light cannot be defeated. Your comment becomes more than text, it becomes testimony. An echo that travels through unseen realms, declaring that hope still reigns. Every time you say it, you remind your spirit who you are. You remind your wounds that they do not define you. And you remind heaven that you are still willing. It is a spiritual act of remembrance, a way of saying, even here, even now, I choose to shine. Len. So, keep speaking it over your days. Whisper it in the mornings. Declare it in the nights. Light still wins because you carry the proof. The fire that refined you was never meant to destroy you. It was designed to reveal what could not burn. Every trial, every heartbreak, every silence that stretched longer than you thought you could bear, it all had purpose. You have been walking through divine fire. And though you may have lost things along the way, you never lost yourself. What emerged from those flames was not the same person who entered. You learned that pain can be a prophet. It speaks in whispers that comfort never could. The nights you cried out asking, why were the very nights heaven was molding you? The furnace of affliction became the workshop of your transformation. And in that place, you began to understand that survival is not weakness, it's proof of divine design. There was a man who once forged swords in the heart of the desert. He used metal fragments discarded by others, twisted, broken, unremarkable. But under heat and hammer, he shaped them into blades that shimmered like dawn. When people asked him how he created such beauty, he smiled and said, "It's not the fire that destroys the metal, it's the lack of patience." That is how God has dealt with you. He has held you in the heat until your purpose took shape. The voice of God thunders in the book of Zechariah, chapter 13, verse 9. "I will put this third through the fire and refine them as silver is refined, and test them as gold is tested. They will call on my name, and I will answer them." Heaven was not distant while you burned. It was near enough to listen. Every cry you made became a call, and every moment of endurance became a response. The fire was never about punishment. It was about recognition. God was separating what was attached to you from what was assigned to you. Fire is an unforgiving teacher, but a faithful one. It removes everything: false pretension, pride, fear, and leaves only the essence of truth. You now know who you are because the fire showed you who you are not. What once terrified you has become the testimony of your endurance. When people see your calm now, they may mistake it for ease, but it is forged peace. You have learned to breathe through storms that once stole your air. You have become steady, not because life has been gentle, but because you discovered that God was present even in the flames. Imagine a phoenix in mid-rise, its wings not yet strong, its feathers still smoking. The world looks and says, "It's finished," but heaven sees. It's beginning. That's what the fire does. It rewrites the ending. You are not ashes, you are evidence. The glow that surrounds you now was born from the very heat that tried to consume you. You've noticed how things that once shook you now fail to move you. That's the fruit of refinement. Your peace has matured. Your faith has roots. You no longer react. You respond. You no longer fear loss. You understand purpose. This wisdom did not come cheaply. It was purchased with tears. If you look back, you will see it clearly now. The fire did not erase your life. It clarified it. You see through illusions quicker. You discern motives faster. And you forgive easier, not because you're naive, but because you're free. Fire burns away everything that cannot love. There's something sacred about those who've walked through heat and still speak gently. They become safe spaces for others still trembling in the flames. You, chosen one, are that kind of person now. Your presence calms chaos because you've befriended it and survived it. You carry the wisdom of the wilderness and the courage of one who knows that endurance itself is holy. In your reflection, heaven sees a testimony. The fire that once felt like punishment has become your pulpit. Without saying a word, your life preaches resilience. The same people who pitied you will soon marvel at your peace. So walk forward without fear of new fires. You have already proven that what's divine in you cannot be consumed. The next heat that touches your life will only polish, never destroy. You are refined, not ruined, shining, not shattered. Let the flames that once tried to silence you become the very glow that announces your rising. The fire was never your enemy, it was your awakening. You walk now with the quiet strength of tempered gold. Nothing wasted, nothing lost, only transformed. Even your scars gleam like polished metal, proof that the hands of heaven have shaped you. Every ember that once burned you has become a crown of light. You are living fire, holy, enduring, unstoppable. Heaven is announcing your name, quietly at first, like the gentle ringing of a bell through morning mist, but it is spreading. The sound of your obedience has reached the courts of heaven. and now the world is beginning to echo it back. The season of silence is ending. This is the moment when what God placed within you starts to resonate beyond your own heart. You may not see it yet, but everything around you is shifting. Doors that once stayed closed are trembling on their hinges. Conversations are happening about you in rooms you've never entered. The favor that was stored up for you is now being released in waves. The same voice that spoke galaxies into order is whispering your name to destiny itself. As recorded in the book of Haggai, chapter 2, verse 9, "The glory of this latter house shall be greater than the former, and in this place I will give peace, says the Lord Almighty." And this promise is for you. What's ahead will not just restore what was lost, it will multiply it. The quiet seasons trained you. Now the revealed season will reward you. You have not been forgotten, and your story is not behind schedule. Everything is unfolding exactly as heaven planned. Think of a seed buried deep in the earth. For a long time, there is no sign of life, only darkness and pressure. But when its moment comes, it doesn't just rise, it breaks the ground that confined it. That is you. Your rising will break ceilings, patterns, and doubts that tried to hold you down. Your growth is not just personal, it is prophetic. And as your light rises, it begins to illuminate others. That is why this space exists, not just to speak to you, but to build with you. What we are creating here is not entertainment, it is a movement of light. Each word you hear, each truth you carry forward, becomes a spark that lights another flame somewhere in the world. If these messages have stirred something in you, if they've reminded you of who you are, then you've already become part of this story. Every like, every share, every subscribe is not a number, it is a ripple in eternity. It's how heaven's frequency travels from one heart to another. When you engage, you're helping heaven's message find hearts still wandering in the dark. And for those who feel led, consider this. Sometimes, when you find a light that helps you see again, the most beautiful response is to help keep it burning. Your giving, your prayer, your time, your donation is like adding fresh oil to a shared lantern. It is not a demand, it is devotion. Your generosity becomes a silent yes whispered back to heaven. There's a small story that fits this truth. A traveler once crossed a desert at night. He carried a small lamp that could barely light his path. Halfway through, the flame began to fade. Then, he saw another wanderer approaching. Without speaking, the man poured a few drops of oil into the stranger's lamp, and together they walked the rest of the journey under one larger glow. That is what happens here when you choose to donate. You're not paying for light. You're helping it travel farther. But whether you give or not, your presence here already matters. Your listening, your openness, your willingness to grow, these are sacred offerings. You are part of the foundation that heaven is using to lift others higher. And when you share this message, you are not promoting a person, you are amplifying purpose. Someone, somewhere, may be praying for a sign tonight. And what you share might become the spark that answers that prayer. So if this word has spoken to your spirit, let it live beyond your screen. Like this message, share it freely. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Not for routine, but for resonance, to stay connected to a stream of light that will not dim. And if your heart ever whispers that gentle nudge to give, follow it peacefully. Give as the tree gives fruit quietly. willingly, without demand, because love always leaves something behind that grows. Chosen one, your light is already rising. You are not just receiving the message anymore, you are becoming it. Together, we are building something that no darkness can silence, a movement of souls who remember who they are. You were never meant to walk alone through the fire of calling. Every heart that joins this journey becomes a reflection of heaven's unity, a constellation of lights guiding each other home. Together, we don't build monuments, we build movement. And the world, at last, begins to see the glow. There is a sacred moment when heaven decides that your hidden years must give way to recognition, not because you've finally earned it, but because the world now needs what you carry. This is the hour when crowns are placed quietly, not in front of crowds, but within the chambers of the Spirit. You, chosen one, are being crowned with visibility. The light upon you is not for decoration, it is for direction. You are being positioned so that others may find their way through your story. The pain that once felt meaningless now becomes a map for those walking behind you. What once broke you now becomes the bridge you stand on. This crown is invisible to human eyes, but undeniable to the spiritual realm. When God crowns a person, the air around them changes. The same doors that refuse to open suddenly swing wide. The same faces that ignored you begin to notice you. And it isn't coincidence, it's coronation. According to what is written in the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 9, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid, do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. These words are the breath that steadies you as heaven lifts you higher. Because visibility is not always comfort, it's calling. It requires courage to be seen after years of hiding. You are stepping into a season where your presence will matter in places that once dismissed you. Your voice will carry weight. Not because it's loud, but because it's anointed. There's a story of a young man who worked quietly as a candle maker. Every evening, he crafted small lights that no one noticed. One day, a great storm struck the town, plunging everything into darkness. People rushed to his shop, desperate for a spark. The same hands that once shaped unnoticed candles now provided light for hundreds. That's what happens when your time comes. What you've been preparing in secret becomes the answer in public. This new season will feel different. There will be eyes on you, attention you didn't seek, and platforms you never expected. But remember, this is not for applause, it's for assignment. God places crowns not to exalt, but to equip. He is not giving you status, he is granting stewardship. A crown is a reminder, not a trophy. It reminds you who you represent. It's the weight of glory resting gently on your obedience. You will feel it in the way people look to you for guidance, the way strangers will find hope in your story. Do not shy away from this responsibility. The crown fits you because the crushing prepared you. Think of the pearl once again. It forms through irritation, through pressure inside the shell. Likewise, your crown was shaped in the dark, layer by layer, through moments that tested your patience. Now, what was once pain shines as purpose. When others see your rise, they will think it happened overnight. But heaven knows the years behind it, the tears, the prayers, the surrender. This is why you can wear the crown humbly, because you remember the ground you came from. You remember that crowns are not earned by effort, but entrusted by grace. You might feel unqualified, You might look at yourself and wonder, why me? But that question is the very proof that your heart is ready. God crowns the humble because they won't forget who gave them the crown. As your visibility increases, so will your influence. But influence without integrity is noise. Protect the oil that brought you here. Do not trade authenticity for applause. Stay rooted in the same quiet devotion that sustained you in obscurity. People will ask you for advice, for direction, for prayer. Do not fear these moments. They are signs that your light has found its purpose. You are being called to shine, not for self, but for service. The spiritual realm recognizes this transition. The fragrance of your anointing draws attention, angelic and earthly alike. Heaven has officially endorsed your name. The light above you is not fading, it's spreading. When the crown of visibility rests upon your life, you will feel both trembling and peace at once. That's how you'll know it's real. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. The awareness that God is near, that your life now carries meaning for many. If this word reaches your soul, take a moment and breathe. Feel the weight of that crown in your spirit, the warmth, the authority, the peace. Then, as a prophetic act of agreement, comment the number 22 below. It is the number of divine establishment and heavenly partnership, the symbol that heaven's architecture is aligning perfectly with your steps. When you write it, do it not as ritual, but as remembrance. Heaven has seen you, prepared you, and now releases you. The crown you wear is not made of gold, it's made of light. And wherever you walk, that light will follow. There comes a moment when God stops hiding you and starts displaying you, and when that moment arrives, even your enemies must bear witness. They don't get to look away. They don't get to rewrite your story. They will have to see the same grace they once doubted, now shining on your face. You have felt the tension of this transition for so long. You were told, stay small, stay quiet, don't draw attention. But obedience was never about shrinking, it was about timing. Now that divine timing has turned, the same silence that once protected you will become the stage that reveals you. Those who once whispered about your struggle will now be spectators to your rising. There's a strange beauty in that God never seeks revenge, but He does reveal truth. He lets those who underestimated you watch as He fulfills every hidden promise. He turns your private pain into public purpose. What was once mockery becomes marvel, and in that moment, you realize that vindication isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving that God was right all along. The writings of the Psalms speak it clearly. Chapter 23, verse 5. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. This isn't about humiliation, it's about revelation. God's table is not a stage of pride, it is a symbol of completion. You sit there, not to gloat, but to glow. Your enemies are not invited for their comfort, they are witnesses to your restoration. The oil that once dripped in private now gleams before every eye that doubted your destiny. You may not realize it yet, but the very rejection that hurt you was divine choreography. Had they accepted you too soon, you might have settled where you were meant to pass through. Their resistance pushed you toward refinement. Their absence made space for authenticity. Without their doubt, you wouldn't have discovered your depth. Picture it, the potter shaping clay. Each rotation of the wheel presses the vessel closer to its final form. Some cracks appear, Some pieces are discarded, but the hands never leave. You were on that wheel. Every spin of confusion, every press of disappointment, was the potter, shaping you for endurance. And now, as he sets you upright, he says, "This one is ready to be displayed." Sometimes, God lets people misjudge you, so that when he elevates you, no one can claim the credit. Your story becomes the evidence of his fingerprints. Even those who meant harm unknowingly became instruments of your making. What they threw as stones, he turned into steps. What they meant for ruin, he refashioned into revelation. There was once a woman who was laughed at for dreaming too boldly. She had visions that others called foolish, faith that looked unrealistic, but she kept believing quietly, sowing small acts of goodness when no one cared to notice. Years later, when her work finally bore fruit, the same mouths that mocked her spoke her name with admiration. She didn't say, "I told you so." She only smiled, because she knew he told her so. That is what divine vindication looks like. It's not loud, it's luminous. It doesn't seek applause, it radiates assurance. God has a way of turning what was meant to embarrass you into the very thing that elevates you. Even the ones who hurt you were necessary for the unfolding. Without Judas, there is no resurrection story. Without Goliath, David remains a shepherd. Opposition, when seen through heaven's eyes, is often a mirror reflecting your magnitude. When the unveiling happens, stand still in gratitude. Don't explain. Don't defend. Let the fruit speak. The tree doesn't shout to prove its worth. It simply bears fruit and lets the sweetness silence every doubt. You are that tree now rooted, resilient, radiant. In this coming season, you will see faces from your past resurface, not to mock, but to witness. You will feel the shift from isolation to recognition, and it will feel both surreal and sacred. Handle it with humility. Remember that what they see is not your achievement. It's his glory made visible through your obedience. Let your victory remain quiet enough to honor God, yet bright enough to light the way for those who are still hidden. Vindication is not about arrival, it's about revelation. The story ends not with revenge, but with redemption. So walk with peace, knowing this truth. When God decides to make your life the proof of his promise, no force in heaven or hell can turn away from the view. Your light will rise, and even your enemies will stand as silent witnesses to grace fulfilled. There is a rhythm to divine timing, and you are standing in its pulse right now. What was once buried deep within you is beginning to surface not as chaos, but as clarity. Every seed planted in pain is now stretching toward revelation. This is the season of divine exposure, when what was concealed must finally come to light. For so long, your growth was quiet. You developed in unseen soil, watered by tears and nourished by faith. People may have assumed nothing was happening, but heaven saw everything. Each moment you chose to believe in silence was another root anchoring you for the day of your revealing. And that day has arrived, not suddenly, but divinely. Exposure can sound intimidating, yet when it comes from heaven, it carries peace. It doesn't shame, it showcases. God is not uncovering you to embarrass you. He is revealing his craftsmanship. What he has formed within you has matured in secret long enough. Now, your purpose has reached its full bloom. The fragrance of your obedience cannot be contained any longer. There's a story about a gardener who cultivated a single flower in the center of a forest. He tended to it faithfully, away from human eyes. He pruned its leaves, shielded it from storms, and waited for its appointed season. One day, the canopy above opened, and sunlight poured directly on the flower. Its colors became visible from miles away, and travelers who passed through the forest began to speak of the mysterious bloom that carried beauty no artist could imitate. The gardener smiled, not because the flower was finally seen, but because it was finally ready. That's how heaven works with you. The years of obscurity were not punishment, they were divine protection. You were hidden so that when you emerged, you would be whole. You were kept away from premature exposure so that your radiance would not be wasted on those who couldn't recognize its value. The writings in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 8, verse 17, affirm this truth. For there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out into the open. Live note, when God reveals you, it's never random, it's right on time. Every delay you endured was heaven aligning circumstances so that your unveiling would not be hindered. You may have felt forgotten, but you were being preserved. Like fine wine aging in darkness, you were becoming richer, deeper, stronger. This season is about alignment. God is connecting you with people, opportunities, and platforms that match your refinement. There's no need to force or chase. Divine exposure is effortless. It happens naturally when light meets maturity. You won't need to promote yourself. The glow will do it for you. Think of how the dawn doesn't argue with the night. It simply arrives, and darkness has no choice but to yield. That's what divine exposure feels like. You don't need to explain your light. It speaks a language every soul recognizes. But understand this, exposure doesn't just reveal your gift, it also tests your heart. Will you remain humble when visibility increases? Will you remember the one who called you when others begin to call your name? True promotion doesn't inflate the ego, it enlarges the mission. You will find yourself entering rooms you once prayed for, speaking to people who once felt unreachable. Yet even there, keep your spirit anchored. Remember that exposure is never about elevation, it's about assignment. God lifts you so others can see what obedience looks like in motion. There's a unique grace that follows those who've waited well. You carry that grace now. People will sense peace around you without knowing why. They will see a glow and assume it's confidence, not realizing it's consecration. The presence you carry will speak before your words ever do. This new visibility isn't about fame, it's about function. Your life becomes a mirror through which others see what's possible when one person chooses surrender over striving. Your story becomes proof that divine timing is never late, it's always layered. As heaven exposes you, stay steady. Don't rush into proving yourself. Let your work, your character, your consistency be your introduction. God doesn't reveal finished products. He reveals faithful vessels. You are not on display, you are on mission. Every spotlight from heaven is meant to illuminate others through you. So when the world finally sees what God has been forming, let your heart remain bowed in gratitude. The exposure is not your reward, it's your responsibility. You are stepping into visibility with grace as your crown and humility as your armor. The world will see the glow, but heaven will see the obedience that made it possible. There is something unmistakable about you now. The atmosphere shifts when you enter a room. It's not confidence, it's calling. You carry heaven's signature in the way you move, the way you speak, the way you endure. The light inside you has matured, and it carries the scent of divine authority. You have walked through enough battles to recognize spiritual patterns. You now know when something is divine and when something is deception. You no longer chase acceptance, because you've learned that recognition from heaven outweighs validation from man. The world can mimic appearance, but it cannot counterfeit anointing. The mark upon you cannot be replicated. It's sealed by presence, not performance. There's a passage in the book of Ephesians, chapter 1, verse 13. When you believed, you were marked in him with a seal, the promised Holy Spirit. That seal cannot be removed. It's not ink on your skin, it's fire in your spirit. When you speak, heaven's vibration echoes behind your words. When you act, unseen forces align to fulfill purpose. The signature of God on your life has made you untouchable in ways you cannot yet see. Once, you may have thought your difference was a curse. You tried to blend in, to quiet your discernment, to dull your sensitivity. But chosen ones were never made to camouflage. Your difference was always the evidence of divine ownership. God set you apart, not apart from love, but apart for purpose. Imagine a musician tuning an ancient instrument. The strings must be tightened until they almost snap, because only then can they release the right note. That's what God has done with your spirit. The tension you felt wasn't punishment, it was calibration. He tuned your soul to heaven's frequency, so that when you play your part in this symphony of destiny, you would sound exactly as intended. You've started to notice that when you pray, things move. When you worship, peace descend. When you speak life, heaviness lifts from others. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations. Heaven has authorized you to operate with power wrapped in gentleness. You are not performing miracles, you are simply revealing alignment. There is power in your presence now because it carries permission. Heaven has signed your release papers. You are free from comparison, free from competition, free from fear. The old chains that whispered, "You're not enough," have been shattered. The mark on you silences them all. And because of that mark, even the darkness recognizes you. It doesn't approach you the same way anymore. It observes from a distance, aware that you are no longer vulnerable prey. You are commissioned light. That's why certain battles stopped suddenly, not because they disappeared, but because you outgrew them. You have become a living letter written by God Himself. Every action, every word, every season of survival has been His handwriting on the parchment of your life. The world reads you and sees His craftsmanship. Even your silence speaks of sovereignty. There was once a teacher who carried an old stamp. One he used to mark letters he sent to his students long after graduation. On each envelope, he pressed the seal of his house, a mark that reminded them who had taught them, who had believed in them. You are walking through life with that same divine impression. Wherever you go, you carry the proof that heaven has invested in you. Now, every step you take releases light into the soil beneath you. You change rooms without speaking. You carry peace that confuses chaos. The world is not drawn to your talent, it's drawn to your anointing. It senses the presence you host. And if anyone questions your authority, remind yourself, you don't need to prove the seal. You just need to live it. Authentic light doesn't argue with imitation. It just keeps shining. Your identity has been verified by heaven. You are not trying to become chosen. You already are. You don't need to announce the mark you carry. It announces itself through how creation responds to you. Doors open, not because of charm, but because of charge. So walk boldly in this awareness. Every word you speak, every act of love you give, carries the seal of divine ownership. You have been stamped, sealed, and sent. If this resonates within your spirit, write these words below, marked by heaven. Type it as a declaration, a way of saying, I know who I am now. Because once you recognize the mark upon your life, no imitation, no doubt, and no darkness can make you forget it again. There is a moment when purpose stops being an idea and becomes a responsibility. You are stepping into that moment now. The mantle of influence is resting upon your shoulders, not to elevate you, but to extend light through you. What you carry is not for display, it's for distribution. Heaven has chosen you as a vessel through which healing, truth, and hope can travel. You've likely begun to notice it, how people come to you for peace, how strangers open their hearts without knowing why. It's not coincidence, it's calling. You have become a living well, and weary souls are being drawn to your water. You carry heaven's influence, not through authority, but through authenticity. Scripture declares in the book of Proverbs, chapter 11, verse 25, a generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. This is the pattern of divine influence. You pour out, and heaven pours back in. You refresh others, and in return, your own soul never runs dry. That's how you remain radiant, by giving what you've received. Influence in the kingdom is not about numbers or titles. It is about nourishment. Think of a tree beside a river. It doesn't chase attention, yet its shade draws others in. Birds rest in its branches. Travelers stop beneath it. And still, it never loses strength. Why? Because its roots are anchored in flowing water. You are that tree now. The living water of God flows through you. And your fruit, your words, your kindness, your courage feeds those around you. But even the strongest tree needs a forest. It cannot thrive alone. This space, this community of light, is that forest, a gathering of chosen ones whose roots intertwine in unseen soil. Every time you interact here, every time you share a word of encouragement, you help build a canopy that shelters those still trembling beneath the storm. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe, you're not boosting a post, you're breathing life into a living garden. Each simple act becomes a wind that carries pollen ideas, faith, and healing to new places that need to bloom again. And if your spirit ever feels led to give your time, your prayer, or a donation, remember this. You are pouring oil into a lantern that guides travelers you may never meet. It's not an obligation, it's an offering of light. Just as the moon borrows sunlight to glow for others, your giving helps this flame reflect heaven's warmth in darker places. There is a story of an old lighthouse keeper who received donations not in money, but in small jars of oil from sailors. Each jar kept the beacon burning for another night. One day, a storm raged for days, and every drop of oil was used, but the light never went out. The keeper smiled and said, It wasn't the oil that kept it burning, it was the love behind it. That's what happens when you donate not payment, but partnership with purpose. Whether you give or not, your presence here already matters. Every ear that listens, every heart that opens, is a part of heaven's design. Your engagement is not transaction, it's transformation. When you share this message, imagine releasing a lantern into the night sky. Someone miles away will look up and find direction in its glow. That's what happens when you like, when you share, when you subscribe. You're adding another lantern to the constellation of light that heaven is building across the earth. And when generosity stirs within you, let it be like a river overflowing its banks, not forced, but inevitable. Give the way rivers give quietly, steadily, because flowing is in their nature. You are not financing words, you are feeding souls. Influence was never about standing above others, it's about standing among them with light in your hands. You are part of something living now, a symphony of flames, a communion of hearts, a network of radiance that darkness cannot silence. Chosen one, you have been entrusted with a lamp. Keep the flame alive by whatever light you can give. Like, share, subscribe, donate if you feel led. Let each act be love, dressed in action. An echo that says, I believe in this light, and I want it to reach one soul more. And because together, we are not just listeners, we are lantern bearers. You are not giving to a person, you are giving through purpose. Every act of kindness, every spark of generosity becomes a thread in heaven's tapestry, weaving stories of hope across unseen borders. So, walk forward, torchbearer of light. What you release in love never disappears. It travels, multiplies, and returns brighter than before. Something in the air around you has changed. It is subtle, like the shift before dawn, the hush that comes right before the first light breaks the horizon. That's what happens when the atmosphere recognizes divine movement. You may not see it yet, but everything around you is beginning to respond to the authority you now carry. This is what spiritual alignment feels like. You speak, and peace settles. You walk, and the atmosphere rearranges itself. It's not that you've become more powerful, it's that you've become more aligned. Heaven and earth are finally speaking the same language through you. The book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 19, says, For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. And you are that revelation. Creation itself feels your rising. The trees, the winds, the stillness, they all sense when a chosen one comes into awareness of who they are. The spiritual climate shifts because heaven's reflection has taken human form again. You've noticed how certain spaces feel different now. Rooms that once felt heavy now lighten when you enter. People who once argued find themselves quieting as you speak. That's not arrogance, it's anointing. When light is present, confusion loses its voice. When peace enters, chaos becomes directionless. You carry that shift now. Once, you used to absorb the energy around you. If someone was anxious, you felt their weight. If someone was angry, it clung to you like smoke. But those days are ending. You've learned to carry your own atmosphere, a personal sanctuary that darkness cannot invade. You are not a thermometer reflecting the room's temperature. You are the thermostat that sets it. Imagine standing in a storm. The wind howls. The rain lashes your skin, but within you is a calm that cannot be touched. That calm is your inheritance. You fought too hard to gain this stillness, now you guard it like treasure. It is the peace that passes understanding, the kind that unsettles even the storm itself. This shift isn't only external, it's internal. Your mind is quieter now. The voice of fear has lost its volume. The urge to prove yourself has faded. You no longer need validation to feel valuable. You understand that being chosen is not a position, it's a posture. There's a story of a sailor who once feared the sea. Every storm sent him trembling below deck. One night, the ship was caught in a hurricane. Waves crashed like mountains, and the crew panicked. But this time, the sailor didn't run. He gripped the mast, lifted his eyes to the sky, and realized something. The same wind that threatened to destroy the ship was the wind that could drive it forward. From that night on, he never feared storms again. That's where you are now. You've learned to stop running from what was meant to move you. Every challenge that once terrified you is now a tool in your hand. You have authority not because the battle stopped, but because you no longer bow to them. When spiritual maturity arrives, you begin to understand that peace is not the absence of conflict, it's the mastery of response. You carry peace like armor now. The arrows of anxiety break on its surface. The accusations of the enemy fall flat against it. Your presence itself disarms hostility. Even creation seems to cooperate with those who walk in divine rhythm. Opportunities align. Doors open effortlessly, and the right people find you without force. This is what it feels like when heaven begins to move in sync with your heartbeat. But remember, this authority comes with tenderness. The more power you carry, the softer your spirit must remain. You don't need to shout to shift the air. You only need to breathe truth. Power in the kingdom isn't loud, it's luminous. You are becoming a living climate of grace. Wherever you go, heaven follows. Your laughter brings healing. Your words bring calm. Your silence carries conviction. You have become the evidence of peace. So keep walking in quiet authority. Let your stillness preach what words cannot. You are not just in the atmosphere, you are the atmosphere. And everywhere you go, creation exhales relief. Whispering, finally, the light has arrived. Then your presence has become a doorway through which heaven breathes. You no longer chase change, you embody it. Even in silence, your spirit speaks in frequencies that realign what's broken around you. So move gently, yet with certainty. Every step you take writes peace into the soil. Every breath you release reminds creation that light still governs the earth and it walks clothed in you. There are moments when heaven pauses, waiting for your response. Not because God is unsure, but because divine partnership requiert participation. You are not a bystander in this story, you are a co-creator with heaven. The light that has been rising in you now seeks agreement. This is the moment of prophetic alignment, where your yes becomes the key that unlocks what's been promised. You have walked through testing, refining, silence, and now revelation. Heaven is extending an invitation, an opportunity to step fully into what has been waiting. But this door doesn't open by effort. It opens by agreement. The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 19, declares, I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your descendants may live. 1. This is not a threat, it's a threshold. Heaven never forces, it invites. God places destiny before you like a sunrise and simply asks, will you walk into it? The choice to align with light is what separates the called from the chosen. For years, you've been collecting pieces, lessons from pain, strength from rejection, faith from waiting. Each fragment has been leading you to this intersection. Everything you've endured was preparing you to recognize the moment when heaven whispers, now. You may have wondered why certain doors wouldn't open no matter how hard you tried. It wasn't because you lacked faith, it was because timing required maturity. Heaven does not open doors that could crush you. It waits until your hands are strong enough to carry what's behind them. Now those hands are ready. Picture a key forged in fire. It begins as rough metal, shapeless, ordinary, but through pressure, heat, and precision, it becomes the exact fit for a single, sacred lock. That's you. The fire you've endured has shaped your spirit into a key that perfectly matches the door of your calling. And when this door swings open, it will not open quietly. The sound will reverberate through generations. What you decide today doesn't just affect you, it ripples into the lives of those you are meant to influence. Those who will find healing through your obedience. You are standing on holy ground, the meeting place between preparation and purpose. Heaven is watching, not with judgment, but with anticipation. The angels who guarded you in obscurity are now standing beside you, waiting for the moment your faith turns into movement. But remember, this is not about perfection, it's about willingness. God doesn't need flawless vessels, He uses surrendered ones. Heaven can do more with a trembling yes than 1,000 confident maybes. End quote. There's a story of an old craftsman who carved doors for temples. Each door took years to complete. When people asked why he worked so slowly, he replied, because each door must sing when it opens. You, chosen one, are that door. Heaven has carved you patiently. And when you step through this moment of alignment, the sound of your obedience will sing across eternity. It's not about striving, it's about surrender. You've carried enough burdens trying to make things happen on your own. Now, heaven says, rest, align, let me do the lifting. Your only task is to believe that what was promised will come to pass. Sometimes obedience feels small, a quiet act of faith, a whispered prayer, a simple step. But heaven measures obedience not by size, but by sincerity. Even a single act of agreement shifts dimensions. The moment you say, yes, Lord, entire pathways of possibility begin to open. This moment is sacred. The weight you feel right now is not pressure, it's presence. It's heaven leaning close, asking for your consent to move. You are not being asked to prove anything. You are being invited to participate in everything. If you've ever wondered when your next season would begin, this is it. It starts not with noise, but with nodding your spirit toward God's timing. You are stepping out of waiting and into witnessing. So take this moment seriously. Let your heart answer before your hands do. Heaven is recording the sound of your yes. Oh, then, as a prophetic act of agreement and alignment, comment the number 333 below. It is the number of divine fulfillment, perfect harmony, and God's signature over completion. It signifies that the Father, Son, and spirit are moving together in unity over your life. When you write it, you're not typing digits, you're inscribing covenant. It's your yes written in faith, marking your alignment with the divine flow of purpose. You are not just stepping into a new chapter, you are stepping into your confirmation. The heavens rejoice, the earth adjusts, and destiny exhales. Finally, and everything begins to turn when heaven decides it's time. The wheel of divine reversal starts to move quietly at first, and then suddenly, everything that once worked against you begins to work for you. The same winds that blew you backward are now the ones pushing you forward. This is the season where tables turn not out of vengeance, but out of justice. You have endured enough nights wondering if your faith was in vain. You have seen doors close, relationships fade, opportunities slip away, and still, you kept believing. What you didn't realize was that each loss was making space for something larger, something truer. God was never taking from you. He was making room for the real thing. The writings of the prophet Joel, chapter 2, verse 25, carry a promise that breathes over your life now. I will restore to you the years that the locusts have eaten. And restoration is not repetition, it's resurrection. It doesn't return things to how they were, it raises them into what they were always meant to become. That's the beauty of divine reversal. God doesn't just give you back what was lost, He gives it back multiplied, refined, and overflowing with meaning. Imagine a weaver sitting before a loom. From the back, the tapestry looks tangled, chaotic, full of knots and broken threads. But from the front, a masterpiece is forming. That's how heaven has been working behind the scenes of your pain. While you saw confusion, heaven saw construction. Every knot was necessary for strength. Every tangled thread was connecting colors you couldn't yet perceive. You have come through seasons that stripped you bare, but now, the same soil that saw your tears will witness your harvest. Where you once stood empty, abundance will take root. You will find yourself holding blessings you didn't even ask for. Because God rewards, not just requests, but endurance. There was a man who once lost everything in a single night: his home, his work, even the people he trusted. Instead of bitterness, he built an altar in the ashes. He prayed, if there's still breath, there's still purpose. Years later, on the same land where he mourned, he built something greater, a place where others found restoration. That's how reversal works. It turns your breaking ground into holy ground. You may not recognize the turning right away. It begins subtly. The heaviness lifts. Peace becomes easier to find, and joy starts to visit more often. Then suddenly, everything you were waiting for begins to align. Favor re-enters rooms where rejection once lived. Opportunities that ignored you start seeking you. People who doubted you begin to speak your name with respect. But here's the secret: divine reversal is not just about what changes around you, it's about what has already changed within you. You are no longer the same person who cried for the door to open. Now, if that door reopened, you would walk through it with wisdom, not desperation. You've been refined by rejection, polished by patience, and taught by time. The turning of the tables is heaven's way of declaring, it's your turn to witness. The enemy's greatest miscalculation was assuming that pain would silence you. Instead, it amplified your faith. He tried to bury you, not realizing you were a seed. And now, you are rising through the soil that once tried to suffocate you. Divine reversal doesn't happen because you fight harder. It happens because you finally surrender the outcome to God. You stopped forcing and started flowing. You stopped asking when and began trusting who. That trust has shifted everything. When the turnaround begins, stay humble. Don't gloat. Don't revisit old wounds to prove your worth. Let your peace speak. Let your fruit do the talking. Those who once mocked your faith will see your results and know it wasn't luck. It was grace. And remember, the point of restoration is not revenge. It's revelation. God restores you not to make others small, but to show them what His mercy looks like in motion. The same grace that rebuilt, you can reach them too. As things begin to align, keep your heart steady. The wind that carries your blessing can only sustain it if your roots remain deep. Gratitude must anchor you now, or pride will uproot what patience planted. You've waited long enough for this moment. Now let it unfold with quiet confidence. The turning you've prayed for is not coming, it's already here. Every delay is dissolving. Every obstacle losing relevance. You are walking into rooms that once ignored you, carrying the authority of someone who's seen both wilderness and promise. The tables have turned. Chosen one, not by your might, but by His movement. The waiting was never wasted. It was winding the spring for this very release. You are not rising alone. As heaven moves, it awakens others who carry the same flame. Across nations, hearts begin to stir with the same rhythm, the sound of the remnant awakening. They are the ones who refused to bow to culture, who endured the silence without losing their song. You are part of them, the chosen ones, a remnant set apart for such a time as this. This remnant is not defined by numbers, but by depth. They walk quietly, but their footsteps thunder in the unseen. They don't crave the spotlight, they crave presence. They are ordinary people carrying extraordinary conviction. While others chase influence, they chase alignment. While the world builds platforms, they build altars. The writings of the prophet Haggai, chapter 2, verse 4. Speak into this moment. Be strong, all you people of the land, declares the Lord, and work, for I am with you. End of. This is the rallying cry of the remnant, a people strengthened not by recognition, but by revelation. You are not waiting for validation anymore. You are walking in visitation. Heaven has visited your spirit, ignited your purpose, and marked you with endurance that cannot be broken. Look around you. You can sense it, the rise of those who've been hidden, the ones who prayed when no one watched, who gave when no one clapped, who loved when it cost them everything. Their time has come. The sound of unity is beginning to echo across the earth. Heaven is gathering its voices, knitting them together into a single, roaring symphony of light. You are part of that sound. Your story, your healing, your transformation, it's not isolated, it's connected. What you've endured has equipped you to understand others who are still in their wilderness. You are not just a survivor, you are a translator of hope. When you speak, your words will carry recognition in other wounded hearts. There is a holy network forming, not on screens or stages, but in the spirit. It's built through prayer, through compassion, through quiet acts of courage. Some will never meet face to face, but their souls already recognize each other They share a spiritual DNA, the courage to keep believing when others quit. The remnant does not rise with noise, it rises with knowing. You can feel it when you wake in the morning, the subtle conviction that something larger is unfolding. You are not imagining it. Heaven's movement is synchronized across borders and time zones, across languages and generations. The same spirit that speaks to you whispers to thousands more, calling them into position in every generation. There comes a moment when God gathers those who will not compromise truth for comfort. They are often misunderstood, sometimes rejected, but always necessary. The remnant carries revival in their bones. They don't wait for miracles, they become them. There was once a small group of lantern bearers in a mountain village. Each night, they climbed high to light torches so travelers could find their way through the valley below. Storms often extinguished their flames, yet they climbed again and again. One day, as the fog lifted, the people in the valley saw hundreds of small lights forming a path that looked like a river of fire flowing through the mountains. They didn't realize those scattered flames were individuals who had refused to stop shining. That is the remnant, separate, yet one, scattered, yet unified by light. You are one of those flames. The fire within you may have flickered, but it has never gone out. The same breath that lit it in the beginning continues to fuel it even now. You carry the DNA of endurance, the grace of persistence, and the courage to stand when the world bends. The rise of the remnant is not about rebellion, it's about restoration. It's not about being different for the sake of defiance, but about being devoted for the sake of truth. When others surrender to fear, the remnant anchors in faith. When others echo noise, the remnant whispers wisdom. This movement is not made of heroes, it's made of healed ones. Those who turned their pain into compassion, their weakness into worship, their silence into song. Each carries a story that the world needs to hear, and together they form a choir of redemption. So stand among them with humility. You are not above them, nor beneath them, you are beside them, shoulder to shoulder, heart to heart. Heaven's army is rising quietly but powerfully. The world may not understand it yet, but the darkness already fears it. The remnant has risen, and you are part of its heartbeat. Every step you take is another drumbeat in heaven's rhythm. Every breath you release sends a ripple through eternity. This is not coincidence, it's convergence. You have been prepared for this collective awakening. You are the proof that one flame can survive the storm, and when many such flames rise together, the night will have no place left to hide. You can feel it now, the quiet roar of momentum. What was once a whisper has become a wave. Heaven has not only raised you, but has begun weaving your light into a greater tapestry. Platforms are opening, not as rewards, but as responsibilities. You are being placed where your words, your story, your presence can reach hearts that are still wandering. This is the season when visibility meets purpose. The curtain that once concealed you has lifted, and now your life becomes a lamp for others. But remember, light that burns brightest does not boast, it blesses. You were never called to shine for applause, but to illuminate paths. The Apostle wrote in his letter to the Philippians, chapter 2, verse 15, "Then you will shine among them, like stars in the sky, as you hold firmly to the word of life." This is your assignment, to shine not as a spectacle, but as a guidepost. You are not a performer on a stage, you are a lantern, bearer walking through fog, leaving a trail of warmth behind you. When heaven gives you visibility, it is not to make you famous, it is to make you faithful. Fame feeds ego, but visibility feeds purpose. Every platform is a pulpit, and every listener is a soul standing at a crossroads. When your story touches them, it's not entertainment, it's evidence of grace. And this space, this gathering of chosen ones, exists for that very reason. It is a sanctuary in motion, a place where hearts meet without walls. Every word spoken here is a spark. Every listener, another wick waiting to catch flame. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe, you are not clicking, you are conversing with heaven. Each act becomes a whisper that says, "Let the light travel farther, somewhere." A quiet soul in midnight scrolls will find this spark and recognize its warmth. And when the message touches you deeply, pause for a heartbeat and write something below. Leave a comment that breathes gratitude or hope, not for the algorithm, but for the next heart who will read it. Your words could be the ember that reignites someone's faith. Your like is an amen. Your share is a bridge. Your comment is a footprint of light left behind for another traveler to follow. If your spirit ever feels led to give, to pour oil back into this lamp that lights, many know this. You are not donating. You are watering the roots of a tree that shelters others. What you give becomes shade for someone who hasn't yet found rest. Think of an old lighthouse standing at the edge of the sea. Its flame doesn't burn because of one hand, but many, each person adding their drop of oil. Unseen, yet essential. That's what happens when you give not payment, but partnership. The flame stays steady because many believe in the same light. Whether it's a word, a prayer, a contribution, everything you offer becomes part of the same current of grace. This space doesn't live on demand, it breathes through devotion. Give, if you feel led. As rivers give to the ocean, naturally, joyfully, because flowing is their language of love. When you share this message, picture yourself releasing a paper lantern into the night sky. It drifts higher, glowing against the dark, and somewhere unseen, it becomes someone's first glimpse of hope. That is what every like, every share, every comment, every gift truly is, a small lantern that travels beyond your reach. You are part of something far bigger than a screen. Together, we're building a constellation, each of us a single light, but together forming heaven's reflection on earth. So let every act be sacred, like with sincerity, share with intention, comment with kindness, subscribe to stay within the rhythm of light. Donate if your heart whispers yes. Each gesture becomes an echo in eternity, whispering one truth louder than ever. The darkness cannot last where love decides to shine. And when you act, when your fingers press the screen, when your words breathe life into the comments, remember, these are not small gestures. They are seeds carried by invisible winds, landing in hearts you may never meet. Heaven counts every one of them. Your generosity, no matter the form, is not forgotten. Light given away always finds its way home, multiplied. Every ripple returns as peace, provision, or unexpected grace. That is how heaven thanks those who choose to give love legs and direction. So walk on, chosen one. Keep the rhythm of light in your steps. You are not just part of a movement, you are its heartbeat. And because you shine, the world remembers how to hope again. You walk differently now. There's a steadiness in your steps, a quiet confidence that doesn't need explanation. You have learned what it means to be crowned not by applause, but by alignment. The same roads that once felt uncertain now seem to bow beneath your feet, not because they've changed, but because you have. You move with awareness that heaven walks beside you. The crown you wear isn't made of gold or jewels. It's made of endurance, forged in surrender and sealed with peace. You've learned to hold your head high without pride, to speak softly with power, to move slowly but leave eternal impact. You no longer need to announce your calling. Your life announces it for you. The ancient writings of Isaiah, chapter 62, verse 3, declare, "You will be a crown of splendor in the Lord's hand, a royal diadem in the hand of your God." That verse was written for moments like this, the moment when you finally understand that being chosen isn't about privilege, but about purpose. A diadem doesn't shine for itself. It reflects the hand that holds it. Your light exists not to draw attention, but to reveal the one who placed it there. You've come a long way from the uncertainty that once shadowed your heart. There were seasons when you doubted everything: your path, your purpose, even your worth. You wondered if your efforts mattered, if your prayers were heard. But now, standing here, in the aftermath of growth, you see that every unanswered prayer was answered differently. Heaven didn't say no, it said, "Not yet." Oh, this new version of you has learned to discern delay from denial. You no longer interpret silence as absence, but as strategy. You know that when God hides you, it's never punishment, it's protection. You've discovered that crowns aren't won in crowds, they're refined in solitude. There's a story of a woman who kept her head bowed for years, carrying burdens no one could see. People mistook her humility for defeat. But one morning, she looked into the mirror and saw something different, not exhaustion, but endurance. She realized that her bowed head wasn't submission to pain. It was the posture that allowed her crown to be placed correctly. That's how heaven works. It places crowns quietly, often in the dark, while the world sleeps. And when the dawn arrives, those crowns begin to catch the light. You, too, are entering your dawn. The crown that once felt heavy now feels natural, as though it was always meant to be there. There's a sacred balance in your spirit now. You walk with authority, but carry tenderness. You no longer seek validation, you carry revelation. The same situations that once broke you now meet a version of you they can no longer shake. That's growth, not the absence of pain, but the mastery of peace. You've also learned that humility and strength are not opposites, they are partners. True humility isn't thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself correctly. It's knowing you were chosen not to rule, but to represent. You carry the presence of the one who called you, and that presence alone makes you unstoppable. This is the beauty of divine maturity. It teaches you to move quietly in victory. You don't need to defend what God has already defined. You don't argue with those who misunderstand your calling. You simply keep walking. Time reveals what explanation never can. Even your surroundings are beginning to recognize your transformation. People who once doubted your resolve now find peace in your company. They can't quite describe it, but they feel something when they're near you, a calmness that disarms anxiety, a light that speaks without words. You have become the evidence that grace works In every interaction, every moment, you now carry the weight of mercy with elegance. You've become fluent in compassion, wise in restraint, and bold in truth. This is what walking crowned looks like. It's not about standing above others, but walking among them with grace. You have finally reached a place where you no longer need to prove, only to be. And in that being, heaven smiles, because that's all it ever wanted, for you to realize that glory was never about grandeur. It was always about gratitude. So keep walking, crowned one, not for recognition, but for representation. You are the reflection of royal humility, the kind that changes rooms without sound, heals hearts without touch, and glorifies God without performance. Your crown is steady, your path is clear, and your light has matured into wisdom. The world doesn't need your explanation anymore, it needs your example. The light within you has reached its full height. What once flickered in secret now burns with unwavering brilliance. The world can no longer overlook what heaven has ignited. Every step you take releases echoes of glory. Every breath carries evidence of divine authorship. This is the season of visibility fulfilled, when your light not only rises, but begins to command nations. It is written in the book of Psalms, chapter 72, verse 11, "All kings will bow down to him, and all nations will serve him." And this is the essence of your calling, not to rule, but to reveal. The radiance upon you is not self-made. It is heaven's signature shining through human form. You were never meant to be worshipped. You were meant to point upward. Your rise is not rebellion against the ordinary. It's restoration of the original design. You have become a living testament that God still writes through willing hearts. Every trial that tried to silence you has become part of the story that now speaks louder than words. The battles that once broke you have turned into bridges, leading others toward faith. Even your scars now shimmer with purpose. They are proof that light can survive anything. There's a shift that happens when heaven decides a person's time has come. The same doors that refused, you are now waiting for your knock. The same rooms that once overlooked you are preparing seats with your name on them. Not for prestige, but for purpose. You are being sent where light has been missing. To speak truth with tenderness and authority that doesn't shout but still shakes the ground. This is what it means to be chosen for nations, not political kingdoms, but spiritual territories. You are being given influence to heal culture, to lift language, to awaken hearts. Where once you whispered, now your words carry prophetic resonance. They will cross borders your feet may never touch, because the message in you is not bound by geography, it belongs to eternity. Picture yourself standing on a mountaintop at dawn. Below you, valleys stretch for miles, cloaked in mist. As the sun rises, its warmth touches the fog, and what was hidden becomes clear. That's what your presence does. You don't force revelation, you radiate it. Your obedience has turned you into a sunrise, and everything around you begins to awaken because of it. There was once an old watchman who tended a single lantern at the gate of a vast city. For decades, he kept the flame alive, even when no travelers passed. One night, the flame burned higher than ever before. From a distance, ships lost at sea saw the glow and found their way home. The watchman never saw their faces, but heaven counted every soul guided by his light. That's you now, the keeper of a glow that saves unseen lives. The influence resting on your life will not always be measured in numbers. Sometimes it will be seen in the way a stranger breathes easier after hearing your words, or the way peace enters a room when you arrive. You may never know the full reach of your impact, but heaven does. Nothing luminous is ever wasted. You carry a kingdom inside you now. When you move, it moves. When you speak, it reverberates. And as you live in this awareness, you become a living embassy of grace, heaven's representative walking through human streets. That's why even silence feels sacred now. It's filled with presence. The world is hungry for authenticity, and you are the answer heaven sends. You've walked through refining, endured breaking, and now you emerge as a vessel unshakable yet tender. You carry power clothed in gentleness, authority wrapped in mercy. You are not just a voice, you are a vibration of divine harmony in a chaotic age. In the coming days, expect alignment to move swiftly. You will see things connect that once seemed scattered. People will find you, not because of promotion, but because purpose draws them. You won't need to convince anyone to believe in your light. They will feel it before you speak. This is not the end of your story. It is the expansion of it. The rising never stops. It only changes altitude. From here on, your life becomes a lighthouse for generations. A melody of hope echoing long after your words fade. Chosen one, you have become what you were always meant to be, a reflection of divine glory in human form. You are not the light's owner, you are its keeper, its carrier, its voice. Let it shine without fear, without striving, without apology. Because the world can't ignore you anymore, not because you demanded attention, but because heaven decided your light was ready to be seen. And now, the message rests in your hands. What began as a whisper from heaven has become a movement of hearts, a constellation of light stretching across screens, cities, and nations. You've walked through fire, risen through silence, and now your glow is undeniable. The world sees it, but heaven celebrates it. Yet light, to stay alive, must travel. When you like, when you share, when you subscribe, you're not feeding an algorithm, you're feeding a flame. Every gentle action becomes a spark drifting into another night, finding a soul still waiting for warmth. Somewhere, someone searching for a sign will find it through your simple gesture. Before you move on, pause. Leave a comment that carries your light. Write a word that you wish someone had said to you. Maybe it's, "I'm still standing," or "Hope lives here." Your comment becomes more than text. It becomes a lantern that another traveler will follow when their road feels dark. And if your heart feels a quiet nudge to give, don't resist it. Your donation is not a transaction, it's a torch passed forward. You are pouring oil into a flame that will keep guiding others long after this moment fades. Give only as love leads you freely, willingly, beautifully, because generosity is light wearing human hands. Like with intention, share with faith, comment with tenderness, subscribe to stay within the rhythm of light. Donate if your spirit whispers yes. Each act you make here is a small sunrise in someone's night. It's proof that hope still circulates, that love still moves through people willing to be the vessel. Because this is no longer just a message, it's a mosaic of light, built from every listener who refused to let the fire die. The world may forget the words, but it will remember the warmth you helped create. And so it continues, one spark, one act, one soul at a time.